live. For those of you that join live, hopefully you know you're here for what we're calling heat pump territory domination. So really what we want to know is how top contractors find customers that most likely you can't see, right? So, my name's Chris with HVAC Pro Blog. I think you guys all know me. You may not know Scott from 257. Scott, if you want to say hi, I know most of your content I have earmarked for later, but it wouldn't hurt to say hi to everybody and just maybe where you're from and how long you've been doing this.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. And hi, everybody. Great to have this conversation this morning. I run a venture-backed startup called 257. Today, we're going to be talking about how you can use data and AI to do more efficient customer acquisition. It's a big problem in the industry. It's just too cumbersome. The tools aren't really built for us for talking to consumers about their homes and HVAC. And that's a big part of what we're focused on at 257. Chris is going to set us up and talk about all the circumstances on the ground that make marketing difficult. And then we'll have a quick demo. So great to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. I really appreciate it. Thanks for joining early, too. We were just talking about that. It's a military thing that I have, right? So it's always good to make sure that the audio and the video work. So we're basically going to focus on 3 specific aspects on how to dominate your heat pump territory, right? We're going to talk about how contractors find what we could term the invisible customer. All right. We're going to talk about leveraging data to dominate your market, like Scott's going to show you when we get a little later into our presentation, and hopefully how you can stop competing in that market and just start dominating that market. So that's really the focus for today. So I think most everybody knows me, but just in case you don't, or you found me somehow, and this might be your first kind of trip with HVAC Pro Blog. I started in HVAC when I was 16. I went to a tech school. My father was in the business. He was an installer. And I got my first job on co-op in the HVAC program around, I don't even know what year it was, 96, 97, somewhere in that range. So it was a long time ago. All right. I did realize on some of these jobs when I looked around and everybody had busted up knees and they were all hurting, like maybe I should do something a little different. So I went in the Marine Corps, and my plan at the time was to pay for college, but to get hours to be an electrician. Grand plan, right? Because the electricians, they look so clean and they were charging so much money and getting such a good wage at the time. And the Marine Corps made me a refrigeration mechanic. So at that point, I just embraced the industry. When I got out as a service tech and a service manager after a couple of trips to Iraq, I had the opportunity after working for a mechanical company to actually work as a utility rebate implementer in Massachusetts. So at that point is when I started meeting a lot of New England's best and worst contractors. And then that even got to a larger scale for the last 10 years prior to doing this full time. I worked for Mitsubishi Electric as the Northeast Business Development Manager. So during that time, I got to see what good contractors did and where bad contractors were falling apart and not growing. So now I get to teach what actually works. And I recently partnered with 257 with their marketing platform because I can see how this is going to fix a lot of problems for residential contractors. So this is one of those things that really works and why we're doing a little webinar here today. And don't worry, I know everybody asks for these slides and things like that. I'm actually going to edit this and it's going to get posted to YouTube for the foreseeable future. I don't plan on taking it down anytime soon. So this is one of those things you're going to have access to probably next week anyway to watch the recording as well. So let me talk about what every contractor faces. And I would love, this is Google Meet, I believe I'm using today. So there's some reactions down the bottom. I would love to know if you've seen this heat pump stampede that everybody's been talking about, because this stampede creates a lot of challenges for everybody. Because it seems like every contractor suddenly became the heat pump expert overnight, whether they were or not. I know a lot of the people that signed up for the call today, I recognized a lot of names, and I know some of you are definitely heat pump experts. And maybe some of you are new and your expertise is heat pumps. Great. But I feel like everybody can't add that tagline to every company overnight. So please, use that thumbs up. Use the shocked emoji or one of those emojis down bottom to make sure that you guys are able to access this, because obviously I'm going to ask some questions and things like that in the chat as we go. I think what you're going to find is if everybody's an expert, that traditional prospecting methods have become just completely oversaturated. You can't do what you used to do because the homeowner is seeing everybody's an expert. So therefore they call nobody, right? And you're always bidding against the 3+ competitors every day. Whether you're the first one in or the last one in or whatever one you want to be, right? Most homeowners are looking for more than one expert. So therefore you end up in that constant churn, right? And that competition is fierce for what we would call the obvious prospect, right? So that obvious prospect is getting multiple quotes, and then they get so confused sometimes they don't even make a decision, right? We have these problems in our industry. We're at a point now where the average HVAC lead cost is somewhere between $200 to $300. And I know some of you have paid a higher price than this. And some of you in years previously have used technology to get the average cost lower. But those same tricks and those same processes don't work the way they used to because all of the heat pump experts caught up, right? Also, if you're looking at cold conversion rates and you're spending all that money, we're talking about 2 to 5% conversion rates. It's tiny. And what's even crazier is when I was working for a manufacturer, we used to track leads that were contacted or not contacted. And I can say that this actually tracks the average number of leads that are never contacted is 71%. So you're spending a ton of money and maybe not even reaching out to the leads that are available to you. And the qualified lead conversion, so if they are qualified and you actually get out there, 15 to 25%. So obviously your close rate on these types of leads that you're spending a ton of money on is just not good. It's not even, it's well below the industry average, right? So I would love to know, and you don't have to share this, I want you to think about this at the very least. How much money are you throwing at leads that don't convert, right? Because this is a huge problem in the growth of your company. If you're spending this kind of money, knowing that you're going to convert 2 to 5% or qualify 15 to 20% and sell maybe that percentage, it's not good. And you combine that with how fast the industry is growing and the explosiveness of this, you could see how this could get out of hand really quick because people are now asking for heat pumps, right? The heat pump market in the United States last year was $11.2 billion. I mean, we're not talking about a small amount. Now, keep in mind, perspective-wise, there are much larger markets. I actually did a little research on some markets to give you a perspective as far as growth goes. And if you didn't know, the pizza market in the United States is a $30 billion a year market. So you can see how obviously more people want pizza than heat pumps, but think about the cost of heat pumps, right? Versus a pizza. So you're fitting a different scale there. So, that's probably why you see pizza ads everywhere and why people continue to put pizza ads everywhere because it serves such a large market, right? And our market for heat pumps is expected in the United States to grow 8.4% over the next 10 years, or now we're 9 years into this because the graph starts at 2034. So that's an average growth. If you're growing more than that, and now we're talking about the actual market growth, not just inflation costs and things like that, right? So sales. So 8.4%. And November 2024 actually had a 15% sales increase year over year. So this time last year saw almost double what the average expected was going to be. So you guys can see how things like the IRA has driven unprecedented adoption rates, right? So there's all these opportunities that pop up around clean heating and cold climate heat pumps that we have to stay on top of if we're going to dominate our market, right? And hopefully you know that this window, it's not going to last forever. This is a wave and you're already on the wave, right? Because we're at a point where we're almost at mass adoption, where we're going to hit the majority of the market and it's going to be like pizzas, right? But we're not quite there yet. You want to be able to dominate as we're growing because then it becomes exponential. So I think what everybody already realizes is that the old playbook doesn't work anymore. And I've put some examples I'm going to show you here of things that I personally used to do when I worked for a mechanical company as a service manager and we didn't have service going on. I drive around and look in neighborhoods for oil tanks because we were selling heat pumps and propane and other options, right? So it was very labor intensive and it was, don't get me wrong, it was better than going home and not getting paid for the hour, right? But I would try to generate neighborhood leads and understand my market better by doing these things. Or we've probably purchased generic lead lists just by zip code. Right? This is out there. You can get town assessor's information and try to get this lead list, but you don't know what's in the home. Like it's a complete crapshoot, and you're going to end up with those 2 to 5% of cold leads, right? And then just cold calling homeowners. It might be your customers, but they're not ready for those types of services or replacements. So it's tough. It's a lot of labor intensive way, and we end up spending way too much money. And the average response time can be as much as 8 hours from that point, right? So when there is a lead, if you're not responding quick, there's a good chance that you're probably never even going to get the job anyway, or never even schedule the sales call anyway. So there's actually some stats out there that on average, 78% of homeowners choose the contractor who answers first. So if you have somebody that can answer first, maybe you can try to compete in that 2 to 5% cold call market, right? But that's getting very saturated very quick, because that's the old way of doing things. I think what separates the winners from most of the contractors is they have data that everybody else doesn't have, right? So they work with information that's not available to everyone. So they stop chasing the typical demographic market, and they actually start using targeted intelligence. And really, until now, it was very labor intensive to pull all this data together and try to cross-reference things, right? And what they found was the ideal buyer's not necessarily ready to buy today. They're ready to buy somewhere between 6 to 12 months, but they can predict that that's going to happen, right? So they know who to target in order to sell them 6 months from now, okay? So this is really based on behavioral patterns and predictions of buyers before they're actually out shopping, and you have to compete with everybody that's trying to say they're a heat pump expert, right? And what some these top performers know that others don't is things like property intelligence will always beat demographics. Like if you're only using demographics, it's not telling you much. A great example is like my street here. I happen to heat with natural gas, but everybody else on my street heats with oil because there's an embargo on the natural gas on my street. So if you think the entire street has gas because you serve my home, you're wrong, right? And you just wasted a ton of money and time, right? And the timing of when to reach out really is everything when it comes to conversion rates. You can't just always market to them. Don't get me wrong. You can't get them on the first try usually, right? There's some repeatable things that you have to know and trust your customer. I'm sorry, they have to know and trust you before they'll actually pick up the phone and call you, right? But if they don't know about you, they're never going to call you, okay? And these behavioral patterns will reliably predict these buyers early in the process, right? So things like energy conscious homeowners that have an investment history is a gold mine for our HVAC contractors, but knowing this is really hard. You don't know what they've purchased or if they're energy conscious, right? Or specific characteristics that also layer on all of the things that you would think are the basics that you're looking for your customer. And finding those is always the tough thing. What we find, the data points that really predict buyers are obviously heating fuel type and the current costs of heating, right? So if they're heating with natural gas, they may not be the best customer for a heat pump right now if you only look at fuel type. But if you start overlaying things like equipment age and the efficiency ratings, or recent utility usage patterns and trends in that state or county, right? Or if they've made property improvements because they're obviously ready to continue to improve, they're going to stay at that residence for a long time, or they're making improvements in order to sell that residence, right? Or if they've recently moved in, people that recently move into a home could qualify for maximum rebates and tax incentives in that new home that they just purchased. So it's really important to start to overlay these things, but it's so labor intensive if you try to do it yourself without technology, right? And that's really where I think 257 comes in. I mean, they've aggregated data for well over 130 million homes. And I feel bad here, Scott. I think I'm going to really undersell this because I get excited about all the high level things, and you have all of the real details in order to say how good your technology is. So if you wouldn't mind chiming in here, like I don't want to.
You got a perfect slide here. This says it all.
Okay.
It's
all right,
data.
Cool.
It's hundreds of attributes on every one of 130 million homes in the country. It's a lot on HVAC, heating, cooling, but also about the home, the people in the home, the other things that are going on in the home, solar, batteries, he's in the driveway. It's a really very complete view of what's taking place in the homes to try and help contractors understand the entirety of the consumer. That's ultimately going to help you sell not just an HVAC system, but get off on the right foot where you're demonstrating better knowledge of who you're talking to.
Yeah. So like, and I always like to say when I tell customers about or contractors about this, like, if you're going to work with 257, you're not buying intelligence or I'm sorry, you're not buying addresses. You're buying the intelligence and the information in order to know all of these behavior patterns and things like this, right? So it's the work that you guys have done to pull all this information together and create this like AI powered precision in order to drill down to those exact addresses and info, right? So even if like you don't run marketing through Scott's program, I want to give you an idea of what the traditional method is and what you could do with data-driven information, right? So like Scott's talking about all that information, if you didn't know this, the traditional method that we usually see in our industry, whether you're doing, and I would say for all home services, right? Not just HVAC. But there's a lot of door knocking that happens, and people are still advertising this sort of thing. There's nothing wrong with door knocking, especially if you know the neighborhood and you have customers, right? So if you were to knock on 100 doors, that's the standard effort and how you start to measure things. Somewhere about 5 to 8 people will be interested, and those would be prospects, okay? And you're lucky to get 1 to 2% conversion. So it's very labor intensive, right? Now, if you just overlay Scott's 257 information here, you could target specific homes and knock on 20 doors, and you're going to have a much higher prospect level percentage. You could say somewhere between 8 to 12 could be actual prospects, and you're going to convert almost 2 to 3 times of these prospects. You're going to convert 4 to 6 of them. So you're going to dramatically improve those results. Now, obviously, we can expand these numbers drastically when we start looking at direct mail and digital advertising. You're not spending the time knocking on 100 doors, right? So Scott, I mean, I have this slide, but I think it would probably be best if you're prepared. Can you give them a little rundown of, how we could easily search these things in Pink, your product with 257?
Yeah, if it's all right, I'll grab the screen here and
absolutely
and give a quick demo. So this product is a product we call Pink. You can see it's fairly pink. We were launching the product a couple of months ago and hadn't named it, and it was coming out very pink. So we decided to call the product Pink. This is a Chat GPT style interface. I assume we've all used Chat GPT or Claude or Grok to all the data that 257 has on every home in the country, and you could talk to it like a normal person. So we can a little Northeast focused here in our attendee list. So we could do something like, show me oil or propane heated homes in New Hampshire. I'll make this a little bit bigger so it shows up larger on your screen. So what's happening here is in real time, we're hitting the 257 database and looking at every single home in New Hampshire and relatively instantly finding 365,000 homes. This is not an estimate. These are actual addresses, and almost 600,000 people that have oil or propane as their primary heating in New Hampshire. You can see also that it's about almost half of homes there, not uncommon. And you can keep iterating on this. What are we trying to do here? I mean, the early part of the use of this product is about maybe figuring out the size of the opportunity, but eventually you want to get down to a set of people that you can go market to. All right, so we might say something like, filter this for homes that are owner-occupied, single family. So, you're not selling HVAC product to a renter or somebody who's got a shared boiler in the basement. So we want to filter that down. And let's see, we can also, if you've got an older system, you're going to be a better, sooner candidate for a retrofit. So you can ask the tool to show me only homes with older HVAC systems. Okay, so we're kind of filtering down from this total universe of New Hampshire homes to homes that are oil or propane heated. And the tool gives you a quick little summary of what it's doing. Single family owner-occupied homes with a HVAC system that's older than 10 years. We also have demographic characteristics. So you might want to say something like, filter this for homes that earn more than 100K, with lots of demographic and other characteristics here that tell you something about the folks in the home. And all the while, you can see here that the population of target homes that we want to market to is going down. Mass save, we could literally just say switch this same analysis to Massachusetts. Oh boy, I always make
close enough.
Yeah,
you got it. That was pretty good.
I get it? I did live there for 6 years, so it's kind of inexcusable to not get it right. But you can see in an instant switch, I just said do everything you just did in New Hampshire, but now do it in Massachusetts. And of course, Massachusetts has got great programs available for heat pump retrofits, the Mass Saves program. So maybe we want to flip this analysis and say, show me instead homes earning less than 100K. I'll go through a couple other examples, and feel free in the chat here if you've got favorites you want to hit. What I really want to do is tie this out to where Chris started the conversation, which is a conversation around heat pumps. So let's start over, and let's say I did something like show me heat pump homes in Massachusetts. So here I'm saying, well, who's got the product today? And one thing I haven't talked about yet here is this bottom corner gives you a little bit of a taste of what kind of homes meet the criteria that you're talking about. So what I've said here is show me single family homes, owner occupied in Massachusetts that either have a ductless or a unitary heat pump system. And down here on the right, you can see that those homes index a little bit more valuable. They're not really multifamily, they're single family. That's not surprising too. And they, of course, perhaps not surprisingly, over-index or skew higher in terms of other electrification products like having solar in the home. I think the money shot here, though, really is to just ask the tool to tell you who is a good fit for the kind of product you're selling. And so just to kind of jump to the conclusion, I can ask Peak, I could say, show me homes, let's just switch to Pennsylvania, that are a good fit for heat pumps. Now, this is a deceptively simple question to ask Pink. Well, how do you know that these homes are a good fit for a heat pump? Because Pink is looking at every single home in the country, 130 million homes. We have the opportunity to observe 20 million or so actual current heat pump homes in the country. And we know hundreds of other things about those 20 million or so heat pump homes. That allows us to use machine learning, to use AI to say, well, what other homes in any territory look just like those homes? Those are the homes that I want to target, that look like other homes that are already buying heat pump products. And we have these kinds of propensity models, these predictors for all kinds of products. So I can say, show me homes that are a good fit for solar in whatever, Florida. We do a lot of business in the solar storage and generator market. This is a predictor of homes that don't yet have solar, but which are a good fit. We've got characteristics like, show me homes in Texas that have had a recent power outage and don't have a battery, for example. Okay, Brooke's saying she's in Wisconsin. Okay. All right. Well, let's switch this to Wisconsin. You get the idea. I just want to show, I don't know, Chris, if you have any, you've seen the product before that you want to hit. But,
yeah. So actually, you just brought one up about power outages. A lot of HVAC contractors that I know in New England struggle with the power outage issues, right? So they actually pick up things for generators, right? They'll sell generator leads. So also there's the whole thing like, can I find existing homes that have solar that don't heat with heat pumps? Is that a possibility? Because I think that's the right customer for heat.
Yeah. So who has solar but not a heat pump in, where do we want to go here?
Yeah, there you go, Vermont. Yeah.
Not a lot of solar in Vermont, but we'll give it a go.
A lot of wind. A lot of wind, actually.
Yeah, you can see the population's quite small here. Yeah. And by the way, we're everything I've been doing for examples here is at the state level. As a contractor, nobody's really operating at whole state level. It's got to be within driving distance. So you can always say, do this same analysis, but for homes within 25 miles of, think of my zip codes I think this is Wilmington, Mass. So you can actually tell Pink to only search within a drivable service area to your business.
That's great.
I'll just show one more thing, just so you don't think that this is just like propeller head analysis. Ultimately, the main goal here is to enable you to go take action and acquire customers more cost effectively than you are today. This button here, this publish button, is not available in the free product. Everything I'm demoing for you here today, by the way, is free. You're welcome to log in to create an account at pink.257.co. And you can do exactly, I'm using the product right now that you would have access to at no cost. There's no upfront fees, there's no licensing fees. Where we do get paid is typically on a performance basis. And so our goal is to help you use data to do more cost-effective customer acquisition. And this button here, this is part of the paid feature set. You press publish, and what we're going to do is we're going to take these what did I do here? Have solar, but no heat pump, target homes, 31,000 homes, 80,000 people. And we're going to go find these very same people in Facebook or Google. We could send direct mail off of this same audience. And what we're going to help you do is basically now go talk to these households precisely. I'm not talking about like entire zip codes or neighborhoods. We're talking actual homes. So let's say we were going to do a Facebook or Instagram campaign. We like to know, what are you going to be spending in marketing budget? This is not what you're spending with us. This is what you're going to spend on Facebook to reach these households. And then we always integrate with our clients' CRM. In this market, it's usually Service Titan, but not always. And we do that for a couple of reasons. One is, if we know who you've sold to in the past, we can tell you what do those homes look like. And that's often surprising and insightful for our customers. It also helps us ensure that we don't remarket to those households. You don't want to be using our data to talk to people you already have a relationship with. And then the final reason we do that Service Titan or CRM integration is so that we can help you measure the effectiveness of your marketing. If you put $5,000 in, what are you getting out on the other side? This is all part of our tool set. And so as a final step, boom, you press a button. And what happens is this exact set of homes, these 30,000 odd homes, show up as a pickable target inside your Meta account. So whether it's you or a marketer on your team or an outside ad agency, we have every flavor of this going on in our customer base. They can now do exactly what they do in marketing. It's just that they have a new little target that they can pick inside their Meta, their Facebook account, that says the 257 has solar, doesn't have a heat pump yet audience. And everything else works exactly the way they work today, except that it should be a lot more efficient because you're talking precisely to the homes that are good candidates for what you're selling.
I think
so that's a quick demo. I don't know, Chris, if there's other use cases you want to talk about.
So actually, let me wrap up with a bit of call to action, and then we'll open it up in case somebody that's on has a use case they'd like to see, right? I think getting direct, like a quick win for someone would be awesome, right? So I have like 3 minutes here, and then we'll turn it over to the audience. So I'm just gonna, unfortunately, in order to do this, I have to share my window again. So
here, I'll take my screen down here.
Yeah, no worries. So hopefully this one worked. There we go. I'm back. Okay. So when it comes to how to implement this, what I would encourage you to do is first use Scott's tool and analyze your current customer base and characteristics thoroughly so you understand who you're trying to market to, right? And identify the common best customer characteristics clearly. That takes a little time with using the tool and understanding your customers. So I would do that week one. Like if I was going to implement this sort of approach, first, identify that. Then set up the platform and get familiar with the targeting tools that are available to you. As you start typing things in, it's amazing the use cases that you start popping up, right? So when guys ask me some of these things, I'm like, oh yeah, Scott's got info on that. Yeah, it's like it's all built in. Like they've already done the aggregation of all that data. So you just have to use that interface that they created to ping that database to know if it's in there, right? I'm willing to bet someone's going to get very granular and might find something that you don't have, Scott, but I'm going to say I doubt it to start.
No, we see it all the time. People try to break the tool. They try to talk to it about stuff that's not really related to HVAC.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, bang against it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like my ideal customer probably isn't an engineer. Like, I don't know if you could do that, right? So I don't think they have like professions in there and stuff, but you can kind of figure out based on
you mean like occupation?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we do have occupation.
Do you really? Okay.
Yeah. We have primary language spoken. We have political orientation. Lots of different, not FICO exactly, but credit worthiness generally. There's a lot of stuff there.
Yeah. So what I would equate this to, like if you were doing marketing and you weren't using this data, I would say it would be like, now this is the military training in me, right? It would be like using a musket, right? It hopefully hits something. Like you get this widespread, it's really takes a long time to refill. You're going to use the musket and you might get one, right? But if you switch to a rifle approach, it's going to make sure you hit that target every time. right? Or at a really, really high percentage, depending on how detailed you get, right? So I think that's kind of like an easy way to explain how you're going to be able to execute this. And I would say weeks 3 to 4, like I don't think you're going to do this today. Like there's going to be some planning and stuff put in place in order to get this to work correctly. But I would say by week 3, you should be starting to launch a campaign that's systematic and track those responses versus your traditional methods. Like I would never switch everything over. Sorry, Scott, I'm sure you'd want to take all of the marketing, but I wouldn't switch everything over cold turkey, right? What I want to do is I want to measure and see how effective it is, because at the very worst, I could save money in marketing. But at the very best, I could shift the dollars I'm spending and get a higher close rate and more homes that I'm actually walking in, qualified buyers, right? So if I just spend the same amount that I'm already spending with Scott's organization, I think you're going to find that it's going to increase average tickets and increase your close rate at the very worst, right? So, but once you see,
and also, sorry to interrupt you, just to clarify, you don't spend your media dollars, the money you're putting into direct mail or Facebook, you're not spending that with us. You're spending that on those platforms. We earn a fee, a performance fee, sort of like a sales commission when we generate an appointment or a sale, and not before. But as Chris is saying, yes, we encourage you to kick the tires. The motivated clients can be up and running very fast. And we always recommend that you start by doing a test. If you're spending in market, whatever, $1,000, $2,000 a month, carve away a little bit of that money and use the 257 toolset, Pink, to target better and run it head to head with what you're doing today and see if it generates more results. That's the best way to get comfortable with what we do.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, no, you nailed it, Scott. I mean, I think the other piece of it is the urgency, right? Like this heat pump window isn't going to last forever. Of course, we're on a hockey stick curve right now, but everybody knows the IRA that created unprecedented demand, that window's closing the end of the year, right? I hate to say it, like somebody sneezes in Washington and the market changes. So, there is outside forces that impact our business every day. So if you have a tool today that can actually increase those items that we're talking about and target better, I would use it while it's useful and while you can use it and use all of these other programs in combination with it, right? So it's great if you can get in front of a homeowner, but if you can get in front of a homeowner that can take advantage of mass save and state programs and tax incentives and all those things on top of it with the right buyer, I mean, those things close, right? So yeah, definitely use it while the window is still open. So what I can say is the contractors that do act soon and act now are the ones that are going to use intelligence to win these projects. It's going to be customers that, if you didn't have this sort of technology or this sort of information, most contractors don't even know about, because they're planning for someone to, if I run this ad, I want someone to call this week. That's a buyer you're going to be competing with a lot of contractors, right? But if you're the only one targeting this specific type of buyer, when they're ready to buy, they're going to call you. All right. So what's interesting is the question isn't whether it works anymore. The question is, when are you going to start using it, right? So the same thing around AI and all these other like fast moving products, like it's not going anywhere. And if you just stick your head in the sand and, stay with oil to the end until it goes down in a ball of flames, it's going to take your business with you, right? So use the things that are available that we know work and that, guys like Scott spent a lot of time building. I would say you can't afford to guess any longer, right? We shouldn't be guessing at the homes we should be targeting to. So like Scott said, explore the Pink platform for free. Just go to pink.257.co. Okay. Start analyzing your territory potential and things, where you are or where you want to be doing business, and possibly build your first targeted prospect list. And really, this is what I would say is the biggest thing I want to get across today, is to stop guessing and start dominating your market, and just, test a small campaign in the next week or so and see the results, like measure the results. That way you can be confident that these tools are working, right? So for the last 5 minutes or so, I want to open it up to Scott to bring Pink back up. If somebody's on, if you want to either unmute yourself or put into the chat an idea of what you want to see for your market, Scott will type it right in, right, Scott? Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot there like that, but I'm asked.
Oh, I love taking requests. I know, Chris, you've got folks in your universe who aren't strictly HVAC related. I'll also say that I think there's a lot of crossover happening in the market. We do have major solar companies, for example. So I can say, show me homes with solar in Florida who are a good candidate for a heat pump. There's, with you talked about the loss of IRA rebates. That's got an even bigger impact on the solar market, where it was basically underwriting 30% of a project's cost, whereas the IRA, I think, had a ceiling of a couple grand for heat pump rebates. So it's a loss, but it's not a loss at the scale that the solar industry is experiencing. So we have some very large solar clients who are starting to say, well, look, I'm in the business of talking to my customers about the benefits of electrification. I've put solar on tens of thousands of homes. What if I stood up an HVAC division and cross-marketed heat pumps to those very same homes, or a generator, to the case you mentioned earlier? So this is just an example of that. One of the things our clients often ask us to do is they say, I've got a very large database of customers and leads. Help me cross-market, help me cross-sell to them. I don't know, Chris, are there other examples that you think
you know what? What's
hit on before
we still have a bunch of electric heated homes in mass, and a lot of people don't realize. So when you pop this up, I'm willing to bet, like, a lot of people here know those counties, like Plymouth County. There's going to be a few that's going to pop up heavier. But I think it's interesting because this is one of those things where you don't realize that they're heating with electricity, and putting in a heat pump is already going to cut your bill by at least half, right? Because of the COP. So actually, we just had one come in. This is Brooke, actually. So this might be Wisconsin's zip code. She has a good one. So
what's she got here? Let me see.
Yeah, owner-occupied homes. Oh, do you have the chat open?
Oh, I have it. Here, I just type what.
There you go.
Owner-occupied homes in 5-3 with a large square footage and no solar. Wow, yeah. Look at you, Brooke. There. Yeah, we do have energy consumption too. So to Chris's point, what happened here? Where is that, Brooke? Is that? Let's see. Expand this to
Racine, Wisconsin, I think.
What will happen? The tool just effectively did this for us. Is it won't ever let you identify a population smaller than 200 homes, and we do that for privacy reasons. So there we got. And if you play with the tool, you will see. If you get too specific, left-handed fireman who grew up in New Jersey and moved to Wisconsin, that's 0 or 1. So, and I just, for example sake here, I did expand that, and you can see Brooks pushing it here. It's saying, I want to talk about house size, lack of solar, and high energy consumption. We have an energy consumption estimate for every home in the country. And that's very useful in cases like Chris was saying, where, a home may be paying out the nose for resistance electric heat. We do a lot of work in the Southeast. So I can say, show me electric heated homes in North Carolina. So a bunch of heat pump manufacturers are starting to use 257's platform to do market planning. And one of the key targets that they have is the prevalence of either resistance electric or older generation, i.e. not cold weather heat pumps that flip over to electric tape to resistance electric when it gets below 30 degrees or so. Those homes pay an incredible amount in electric bills in cold months. And if they can be propositioned to move to a cold weather heat pump, they're going to save money, they're going to have more comfort, and they're going to get of course, an awesome air conditioner in the mix too.
Yeah. The ability when you start doing this is just it really starts opening doors and starts making you think, and you start going deeper and deeper. Right. I could see someone that's into marketing spend a lot of time on the tool just to better understand your market and the opportunities, and that's all free. So sign up for a free account. I think that's the most logical next step. That is zero cost. Right.
Yeah, and give us a call, drop us an email if you don't find what you're looking for. If you have feedback. We're a small company growing, but like a lot of our clients, we care deeply and want to understand how our product's being used and what we can do to improve it. Chris, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate the time today and your focus on helping contractors sell better.
Yeah, it's a big problem. And if we're going to help the guys that want to grow, they have to do it smarter, not harder, right? So I really appreciate what you guys are doing at 257, and thanks for the partnership. I'm excited to get the word out, and we'll get a lot more contractors from New England your way for sure. And like we talked about, there's plenty across the country that follow some of my content, and hopefully they're watching this replay on YouTube and they'll reach out soon.